The next step in the process is to actually create the design space, and we're going to do that from this original geometry. We're going to create a solid part that's going to kind of fill in all of these holes, because when we optimize the part, we want the loads to pass through wherever they can possibly pass through, and in this case they would only be allowed to pass through wherever you have existing geometry. So I do that by double clicking, and I can double click again and go into our sketch or edit mode here, and I can create the part, and then I can use these red edges and create a reference geometry. And when I do that, I can go back in, and I'm actually going to delete some of these curves because I don't want all these curves to be a part of the geometry, the final geometry. I can also go over here and I can select on these holes, and I'll show you another way to create a hole after the fact. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to right click, and you'll see it looks a little funny here, but it's just laying on top, and I can pull that to the other side. So now you can see I've created this part here, this kind of solid representation, and I can turn off the old part here, and you can kind of see this new solid part of geometry that we're going to consider our design space. Now the only other thing that I need to do here is actually add a hole where there was a hole before. So I'll go ahead and click on this holes option and create a hole, and this is actually a 25mm hole. So you can see that you can sketch on top of geometry, and you can trim away areas as well. So in this case I created a hole, but you could also create any other openings you need in the design. Okay, now that I've created the design space, what I want to do now is go ahead and create some non-designable regions. And what you want to apply your loads to these non-designable regions, because they will not be optimized away. So you use these a lot of times when you're creating bosses or lugs, where you're applying your loads to your design. So what I'm going to do here is actually sketch a new part just by creating a new part here. And I'm going to create just a little cylinder here and just place it in that area. Now what I can do, now we have kind of two parts sitting on top of each other, I can go ahead and perform a Boolean operation. So I can select on the original, select on the new part. You'll see a representative kind of a preview of it, and I can go ahead and say I want to keep that original space. So now I have two parts. So it's just another way to break your model up into the designable region and the non-designable region. So the last step in creating this design space and getting it ready for the optimization is to cut one hole out of the top here that was there in the original part. So I'm going to turn off these the actual design space and the boss material. And I'm going to go ahead and flip this part upside down. I can go into orthogonal mode. It might be a little easier to see it. And take a look here and go ahead and create a box. So I'm just going to select on this bottom face here, and I can zoom in a little bit and go ahead and create just a box. And if I want, I can place that into a new part. Now I could always have done that in the very beginning, but a lot of times you'll sketch and you'll want to do that after the fact. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a little box of material here, fit the model here, and turn off the original part, and then perform another Boolean operation here. So I can do another Boolean Subtract, and I can select the two main parts that we'll start with, and then we can subtract this part away. So you can kind of see what I'm accomplishing here, and I can go and perform the Boolean operation, and then I can define this as a design space. By doing that, now you'll see the non-designable regions, the designable regions, and then the two rails that we're going to use for the optimization.